It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnett Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
Freeman, I noticed this morning as I walked into, we meet up usually an hour or so before the show and catch up and try to figure out something.
What
are we going to do today?
That's right.
And so I walked in today to our
Coffee, bean,
and tea leaf.
Yep.
And I found you coaching a young lady who was writing. Let me see if I can assemble the story. Writing an application letter.
Cover letter.
Was that
Yeah.
it for her first job, or she wanted a job at the bank?
Yeah, it was a job at the bank, and I had borrowed a pen from her because there was something that I remembered you and I had talked about that I wanted to bring up when you got there. And after I borrowed a pen, she asked me, "Well, it was a word she was using. She said, what would you say instead of?" And I can't say what the word was. And I said, "Well, give me the sentence, and I'll tell you what I'd write." And then it became clear that she was applying for a job, and it was interesting because part of what she was struggling with is the need for a job. She needed a job. She wasn't sure if this was the right job, and I watched her conflict, her internal conflict, and I offered to her that if she was able to lead with what it was she had to offer versus trying to figure out what they want, and if she really interviewed them to make sure it was an environment where she felt she could excel, that was a better bargain, again, than trying to please them or fit into what she was looking for. There's a piece of my own personal experience where and this is going to sound dramatic, but I betrayed myself in a particular way to try to be what I thought someone else wanted me to be, and it's never worked.
How so?
Well, this is actually the piece I want to get to because it'll bring us to our guest. Whenever I was conflicted in my life, when there was some part of me that didn't want to be there, or some part of me that, some part I had a conflict. Part of me wanted it, part of me didn't want it. What that did is it defeated my intention, my sort of higher intention. And it ended up things didn't work out, right? And I like to view this personally in terms of coherence. And that'll bring us to our guest. When we talk about coherence, and we had the opportunity to have Lynn McTaggart on, she gave a wonderful definition of coherence in terms of photons. That's the units of light, and how units of light, when they
come back to the story,
interact. Well, no, but here's the piece. I want to get back to the story.
Yeah.
That when they interact, some of them interact in a constructive way, and some of them interact in a destructive way. The destructive ones cancel each other out. The constructive ones, you can say they're on the same wavelength, and they become it's very efficient, this state of coherence. And you can also think of it in terms of a flow, an energetic flow. And so I was helping her to try to get more aligned with what it was she wanted to offer in the world, and what it is that she felt good about in herself to put out, versus trying to figure out what they were going to want. That's the piece I think is important, because it speaks to a quality that is underneath whatever the action is, the applying for the job. There's a quality underneath it that is more important than the result. In fact, it ultimately dictates what the result's going to be. But so often, we don't pay attention to that quality. We pay attention to the external thing.
As a mirror.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to really hook me.
Because I'm really only interested in it as a mirror.
Okay. All right.
As a mirror, what I found so beautiful was that there you were in a situation that just arose organically, an opportunity to give your gifts.
Thank you.
And that there was somebody there open-hearted and open-minded enough to receive those gifts. And then it occurred to me, I'm walking in on this, and this is a mirror, likewise, of what matters to me, what I value, of the kind of connection, the kind of poetic synchronicity that abounds everywhere, if only I have the eyes to see it and the ears to hear it, that it is a mirror of what is good and beautiful and matters to me. It's this gem, this little jewel of a conversation, a tiny conversation in the corner of a coffee shop, in the middle of a work-a-day moment, and yet it reflects everything that matters to me.
Beautiful.